From the inception of kingdoms and governments, lying spirits and devilish doctrines have whispered in the ears and quietly crept their way next to the thrones of leadership. Serving as counselors, they advise their wicked agenda, often catching the eyes of a king with entertaining and profound feats of spiritual talent. The sorcerers in Pharaoh's council held their own against Moses and Aaron, convincing him that the men of God were performing simple parlor tricks. Mesmerized by an entertaining performance, Herod gave the order to behead John the Baptist. Nebuchadnezzar's magi advised him to cast a man he respected into a den of lions. Influencers charged with alluring magic, silver tongues, and crafty showmanship always seem to have sway over the most crucial moments in time, hardly in plain sight, but from beneath the throne and behind the curtain. Soothsayers, familiar spirits, witches, warlocks, sorcerers, alchemists, and necromancers all paid the price for a pebble's worth of power. But joined together in their secret orders of darkness, they make themselves into a sizable force. Their god is ancient, coordinated, and most of all subtle. Their forces and influence have slowly and steadily made their advance on the world. One day at a time, the darkness eats away and erodes the fortitude of a godly society. Long since the day has it been when they kept their craft a secret. With no fear of a righteous upheaval, no concern of a holy troop to take action, their true colors are shown brightly in the light of day. Under their control, government has no power. The air, the rain, the food has been poisoned. The strong and youthful are drugged and in a haze. The wise and matured are tired and drained. Their loyalty to wickedness has no end. Their love for evil knows no boundary. Their desire to corrupt the pure-hearted is never satiated. Rebellion is feeble. Legal action is useless. Their God is the God of this world. In this world, we will have tribulation. But fear not. Our God has overcome the world. He has given us the power to tread on serpents. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Our battle is not on the ground, but in the heavens. Our strength is not in our hands, but in the Spirit. Our weapons are not of a constitution, but of divine inspiration. Our armor is not of legislation, but of a righteous dedication. Our hope is not of a man in a congregation, but a Savior in heavenly habitation. Stand up now, Christian. Gird yourself and carry your cross. Be strong. The path before us is quite narrow, and there are few that can chart its course. We will walk this road together, with one Spirit, as one body, under one God, unto a place where there is no more pain, no more tears, and the comfort of our Savior for endless years.
Welcome back to another episode of Ancient Echoes. What's going on with you guys, man? My name is Bronson. My brother's name is Austin. And tonight, man, we're going to be doing part 2 in our Society of Sorcery series. Tonight, we're going to be covering witchcraft and entertainment. It has been a hot minute since we have done a video together, and that is because I have been all over the place. I've been in Chicago on business. I got a baby due here in just a couple of weeks. It has been crazy, man. But it feels so good to get back in here and to do an episode. I miss doing Ancient Echoes. It has become like an integral part of my lifestyle. And so it's just a great thing to be back here with you tonight, Austin. And with that being said, bro, what's up with you, man? How have you been?
Welcome, everybody. I've been great. Just getting stuff done around the house, doing family things. You guys know how it gets sometimes. For you, those of y'all that don't know, I have 4 kids, so it's always crazy and it's always it's good crazy, but it's crazy all the time. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about is Society of Sorcery Part 2. And what we're going to be doing is going through different parts of culture and breaking down just a little bit. We're not going to get into each one of them all the way. If there's something you guys see that you're interested in, us diving deeper in, whether it's sports, music, politics, whatever it may be culturally, art, architecture, let us know in the comments below. Let us know if you want us to cover any of these more in depth. But what we're going to do tonight is just to show that it's an all-encompassing thing, that all of society has been permeated by this witchcraft. So we're going to touch a little bit on each one and show a little bit of examples. And then after this, we got part 3 coming to where we're going to really dive deep, and that's going to be just crazy. Rituals, all that type of stuff. We're going to bring it all together in that third one. So let's go ahead and get into it. And guys, don't forget to follow us on X, follow us on Facebook, TikTok. We're on almost everything, Instagram. And then go check out the gaming channel too. Bronson, you want to plug that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to, man. So my fiance and I, and mine and Austin's first cousin and his wife, we started doing a Christian gaming channel not too long ago. It has been a lot of fun, big learning curve, and it's a different realm of people. This is my zone. This is my people's here, the Ancient Echoes crowd, where we get down and get into the nitty gritties of the Bible. But I wanted to do something. We've been talking about it for about 6 months now, where Austin and I said, we'd really like to get in touch with the youth a little bit, people that are in their teenagers, and just people that might not be as into what our audience is into. Our audience is very well informed, Austin, as you know, and they teach us sometimes just as much as we help them with information. And people around my age and younger, man, we're kind of a dying breed, man. People are Christian, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to question their salvation or whatever, but they're not what I would call Bible nerds, right? Like I call myself a Bible nerd. I want to know everything there is to know about that Bible, man. And the love for it just doesn't seem to be what it used to be in this country. And so we thought, man, what if we did this over a game of Mario Kart? What can we do to make this just more fun and entertaining for the youth? And so far, it seems to be working pretty well, man. It's still a brand new channel.
What's the channel called, Bronson?
We called it Solely Switch. For those of you who don't know, this is a Nintendo Switch, right? And so that's the only gaming system I own, because I'm not a big fan of Microsoft, right? So I'll pay Nintendo. But it's called a Nintendo Switch. And so we can only do Switch content on our gaming channel. So it's just solely Switch content. But we spelled it SOUL, right? Because we've made our souls switch to Christ. So that's kind of how we did it. So it was a clever little name.
Where can they find you at?
So we're over on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on Twitch, of course, is where we stream a lot over there. That's where the youngins are. Over on TikTok, Instagram, where them youngins is at. So we're all over the place, man. We're on every single platform. We're doing things that people have never done before. Truly, we really are. We're groundbreaking a lot of things. I don't know if our audience is familiar with the term uwu fufu, but Solely Switch just last night created the very first Christian uwu fufu that's ever been created ever. And so
I don't even know what that is, bro. What is that?
It's just, take your favorite 50 artists or whatever, and you do one at a time. Who's better, Eminem or DMX? And then DMX wins. So, and by the end of it, you end up with 2 people left over, and you got to pick, like, oh man, is it Tupac and Biggie or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Right. And so we did it with Bible characters, and so far David is he's doing well, man. He's really killing it. But yeah, we're over here, breaking ground in a new territory and trying to push the kingdom into a different audience. And so far, it's been successful. So if you guys got kids, grandkids, friends, whomever, send them over to Solely Switch, man. We have a really good time. But I appreciate
exactly
you.
What I wanted to plug is so if your kids like to watch video games, I know my kids like to watch people do Minecraft and this and that, and I try to keep them off it the best I can, but it's almost impossible nowadays with the way devices are readily available. There's Wi-Fi everywhere. So if your kids are into watching the gaming channels, this is a gaming channel that you can trust. You can trust them to be playing wholesome games, having wholesome conversations, but it still be entertaining. You know what I mean? And if you like our videos and you see like where we're coming from, what we believe in is what you believe in, then maybe show your kids. I know I have a nephew that loves rap music, but he's listened to all kinds of same stuff I listened to growing up. It's this type of deal. It's not good. It's not good for your mind, not good for your soul. But I went ahead and turned him on to like Tyson James and ASAP Preach and some of the other Christian artists out there, and just tried to push him in that direction. He's been listening to more and more of that and likes it a lot. So same type of deal. If your kids like to watch the gaming channels, shoot them on over to Solely Switch. They're on Twitch. They're on YouTube. Good stuff, guys. Get out there and check it out. Now, I know it's been a while since we've been here, so we've got clips, videos, all kinds of stuff coming up. We've got probably more for this video than we've ever had for any video, as far as just like posts, stuff like that. We're going to be getting into all that, and don't forget to tune in a couple days after you see this video drop. We're going to be having our Genesis 16 commentary come back, and we're going to get right back on the ground where we left off, and we took a little bit of a break for, I guess it's been 10 days now since the last release.
Right.
So
it feels like a year.
Feels like a long time, but there's lots of channels that don't release anything but twice a month, just big videos, and we do like 2.5-hour videos twice a week usually. So it'll be all right. But we're gonna get into it now. So let's go ahead and get into the content for the night. First thing we're going to start off with tonight is some verses to kind of paint the picture of what we're going to be talking about. So let's go ahead and get into it.
For sure, man. So like we talked about earlier, this is witchcraft and entertainment. And so we're going to start off with a couple of foundational verses. Matthew 16:26 and Mark 8:36 essentially say the same thing. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? This verse is typically used when we're talking about selling your soul, right? You hear that term all the time. He done sold his soul for riches and for goods, for fame and for fortune. And this is essentially kind of what we're going to be getting into tonight, about how the rich and the wealthy, not all, but the rich and the wealthy, the famous and the prosperous seem to be in this weird little cabal with each other. And we've got lots of evidence tonight. We've got key players. We've done stretch to web. My internet browser is probably on a watch list now. It's been pretty rough. But Jeremiah 12:1 reads, "Righteous are you, O Lord, when I plead with you. But let me talk with you of your judgments. Why does the wicked prosper? Why are all of them happy that deal very treacherously?" And that is exactly how we all feel as Christians, man. You look around in the world and you're like, man, I'm doing the right thing. I'm following the Bible to the best of my ability. Am I perfect? Far from it. But I'm doing everything I can to do well. And man, are they killing me? They're taxing me. They're cursing my kids. They're teaching them things they don't need to be learning in school. The internet is just a cesspool of disgusting atrocities. And every time you turn around,
you're the hateful one for noticing, bro.
It's your
fault. You should turn the rhetoric down. You should be more accepting of all this garbage. And if you don't, you're a bigot and a terrible person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How dare you want to raise your own kids?
It's disgusting the way the world has gone. And then you see this, and it's always been that way. These wicked people find themselves slithering into the positions of power, and just all kinds of filth ensues after that. So it's nothing new under the sun, like Solomon says.
That's right, man. And it feels like when you look at it, it's so hard to fight against it, and it's so hard to make anything happen. It's almost like as if what Psalms 2:2 here says, that the kings of the earth have set themselves together. It seems like there's just one big cabal and all the rulers are in on it. It sounds like a crazy thing to say. It really does. But right here in the book of Psalms, the very second chapter reads, "Why does the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves together, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed." There it is, man. The Bible itself says it. The kings of the earth and the rulers get together. They make their little plans, their little bohemian groves and beyond that, and they take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. Now, I'm well aware, for those of you who are super Bible nerds, you're going to let me know that this right here is in reference to Jesus and that it's, quoted later on in the New Testament. I totally understand that. But it's all about this right here tonight. That's what we're talking about. I've highlighted, for those of you who are just listening, that it's about the kings of the earth and the rulers and how they all get together. And so with that being said, man, I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking tonight. Austin has put together a crazy show, man. It's just so much information that if I did do a lot of talking, we'd be here for 4 hours.
Hold on one second. Kill the screen share for 1 second.
Yeah.
Let me talk to everybody for just a minute. I know I've bumped my gums a lot before we even get started, but we're going to be going through a lot of posts, and that first one just reminded me. There will be some language in some of the posts. There'll be like some cuss words. There may be some things said. We're going to be playing clips from all kinds of different people from all kinds of different walks of life. So if you're easily offended by language or you have little kids watching or anything like that, I just suggest maybe set this one out. But just so you know, it's going to be in there a little bit tonight. So it'll be more in like the titles, like in this first one we're going to play. It says like what the F and all that type of stuff. And there's a lot of that because a lot of this stuff is some what the F type of stuff, just to be real with you. So you're going to see some languages like that. We don't endorse using that kind of language. I try to clean my mouth the best I can. I grew up with a mouth like a sailor. So it doesn't offend me as bad. Maybe I'm, just desensitized to it. But if you are sensitive to that type of stuff and you just don't like it, seeing it or whatever, it's going to be in there a little bit tonight, just so you guys know. And we're a Christian channel, so we try not to put anything into your homes that you don't want without at least telling you, hey, it's going to be a little bit in the titles and stuff. So with that being said, let's go forward. Now, what we're about to show is it's a clip, but we're going to zoom in real close on it, and there is a crosshairs or a cross right in the middle. Okay, so we're going to let this play a little bit, but Bronson, I'm going to stop you whenever it first gets started, and we'll zoom right in on that crosshairs. And when it starts, focus right on that crosshairs and don't move your eyes away. Don't look to the side. Just focus straight ahead and see what you see on your peripheral vision. This is crazy, guys. So check this out.
Neo, are you awake yet? Do you still not believe? Focus
All right, stop it there.
on the cross.
Here we go.
All right,
So this is the crosshairs right here.
Let's zoom in on as close as we can so everybody can get a good look up. All right, can we scroll up just a little bit? There we go. All right, now keep your eyes on those crosshairs, guys. I'm going to do it with you guys, so I might look a little stupid over here, so don't laugh at me. All right, let's do it.
And tell me what you see.
Ooh.
These are things that can only be seen through your peripheral vision. This is not a trick.
Ugh.
This is not an illusion. The longer you watch, the more distorted and grotesque their faces grow, and you can see their true nature. This is true deception. Perception is deception. These images are terrifying. The veil is being lifted. What you're seeing is real. This is what is controlling us. You can stop this video and rewatch it, and you'll see that these faces are not altered. This is true deception. It's time for everyone to wake up and face the truth of what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't know about y'all, but that is crazy to me.
Yeah, that is I remember where I was in a parking lot ready to pick up some wings and pizza one night, and you sent that to me, and I sat there, and I'm weird about things, right? Like typically when I'm given some type of instruction, whether it's repeat after me or something like that, I refuse
I won't
to
do it.
Yeah, I'm not doing it, bro. So
I'm not following your mass formation psychosis.
Yeah.
Not getting this one, pal. Yeah.
I will
And
not
I was
do
like
it.
that the first time I did it. I didn't look at that. I didn't look at the cross until I watched it through each
Right.
side one full time. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, let's run it again while we're talking real quick. We just put it on mute so everybody can look at it because
Yeah.
I'm sure our audience is a lot like us. You know what I mean? So let's let them just see, like watch each side. There's nothing altered about them. Yeah, I watched it through each time, watching each side to make sure there wasn't something funny about it. But it just seems to be the pictures of the people.
Right. What's crazy is that once you kind of see it, it's hard to unsee it. But when I went through it the first time, I was like, oh, dude, I recognize, 85, 90% of these faces here. And they begin to recycle. You know what I'm saying? There's a couple of them that recycle through there. But then when I went through and stared at the picture, or excuse me, the crosshair, I was like, goodness gracious. Some of those faces are so, I don't even know what to call them. It just almost looks like balled up Play-Doh. You know what I mean? It's distorted beyond all belief.
Yeah, I don't know. Now they claim that nothing was altered. It could have been altered. We could be wrong, but when I go through it, it just looks like pictures to me.
Yeah, I mean, they may be a little up close, or maybe some filters. I mean, some of the lighting is look at the overexposure on some of the guys' faces or whatever. But I mean, for the most
Yeah.
part, man. And I showed it to my fiance, and she's not one that drinks Kool-Aid often, if you catch my drift. And so she went and online and just started finding tons and tons and tons of pictures, and would start scrolling by them without looking directly at them to see, you know what I'm saying? And it still works, you know, it still works. Now it's in motion, so it's different as you scroll. It's in motion, but it's really really weird, man, really weird. Tonight not might not be the night to go down that rabbit hole, but to stay on subject at least is that, you know, the rich and the famous, there seems to be some really odd things going on between all of them together, and some strange key figures that seem to connect them all together. And you found one recently that I'd never heard of before.
Yeah, let's get into it, man. We're going to be starting off in music, kind of the witchcraft and music. And you want to read this real quick?
Yeah, for sure, man. So this comes from at Lizzie Revelation, and this is rapper Aesop Rocky, right? And he's seen here standing in the midst of a satanic pentagram performing an occult ritual. High Witch Michelle Lamy is his handler. They show you who they bow down to and who they worship. So this is Mr. ASAP Rocky. And he's had quite a few. Actually, he's had a couple good albums, in my personal opinion. Austin and I are big rap and hip hop fans, and I used to. There's quite a few songs from ASAP that I actually enjoyed back in the day. But this lady here, I had never heard of her before until you had shown me her. And this lady is creepy. Now, I'm sure most of our audience is probably familiar with this term here, but do you think maybe you could give just like a brief synopsis on what that means?
A handler would be someone who's initiated into whatever branch of whatever, say, even like the CIA, within witch covens, within Freemasonry, within any kind of an organization that's more shadowy, or even something that's not. A handler is just someone who's, a higher ranking person that's getting recruits in and basically telling them how to handle situations, putting them in places to where they succeed in whatever they're trying to do, whether it's good or bad or whatever, but basically to tell them how to act, what to say, and all that type of stuff. And also is there in case that they get out of line to drag them back in line to wherever they're supposed to be. And they usually have someone above them that's their handler. And, they say, crap flows downhill, basically. Same thing that's your job. You have your director of operations that's over your field managers, and your field managers that's over supervisors, and anything that someone says to the one, the next one says to the next one, the next one says to the next one, for the whole operation to be cohesive. It's the same way within Hollywood and within secret societies and everything else. You have the higher rank above the lower rank, and that they would typically be their handler.
Right. Right. Well said. And this lady here seems to be in the midst of quite a few of these famous people. This comes from the Red Pill Drifter, and it reads, "This is Michelle Lamy. She is the high priestess of Hollywood. She is highly respected among celebrities and wealthy socialites. She is married to Rick Owens, who is known as the Lord of Darkness in the fashion industry." There's your rabbit hole. Enjoy. And my goodness gracious, is she a looker? Wow.
Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm,
Chris.
mm. So,
Here's her with the Migos. Let's check this out.
yeah, go full screen on this. And
A photo of the Migos and a mysterious woman I have never seen before. The woman quickly caught my attention as she was throwing up a Masonic symbol. With her hands, she was doing the symbol that represents as above so below, clearly indicating that she was a Satanist. At first I didn't find much of anything on her. I couldn't even find her name. But as I further researched, I found out who she is, and her name is Michelle Lamy. She is a fashion designer, and she's also the wife of famous fashion designer Rick Owens, who is also in the photo with Amigos. Michelle would actually play a big role in Rick's career, as she gave him his start when she hired him to work in his company in the early 2000s. They ended up marrying each other, and then she helped establish his fashion brand. As I kept looking into Michelle, little was found about her upbringing and how she even got where she is today. Even her relationship with Rick Owens appears strange, as she's 18 years older than Rick is. What I did find that I thought was very interesting was her connection with A$AP Rocky, as A$AP Rocky credits her for designing his early album covers and helping him with his style. Rocky can be seen in many photos with Michelle, and we can see her style rubbed off on Rocky. I did a full video on A$AP Rocky where I explained that I believe A$AP Rocky was a Masonic puppet who sold his soul in order to be the star he is today. In A$AP Rocky's early music videos, he was clearly being guided on how to dress and act. A$AP Rocky's entire style was created by Michelle Lamy, and she was A$AP Rocky's handler. Michelle is clearly a devoted occultist who was inspired by no other than Aleister Crowley. Just like we saw with Marina Abramovich, these people are Satanists who have tons of influence in the industry. Michelle Lamy has a photo where she's clearly trying to look like Aleister Crowley, just like we see in the Migos photo. Michelle could be seen with many celebrities, one which is no other than Kanye West. Like I said before, Kanye West is being used by the Masons, and to me this further proves my point. Michelle Lamy can be seen in a photo with Kanye and Kim, and in another photo with Kanye and his new girl.
You know, Kanye's.
Say,
Go ahead.
I will say, no matter where I looked doing this, and like I said, we're just barely scratching the surface on most of this stuff. There's lots of things that we left out that we could do more in depth on. I have in my back pocket, and you guys let me know in the comments, okay? I got something in my back pocket about Kevin Gates that I did not put in this, that is a very deep rabbit hole. So if you guys want to see that, you want us to cover what's going on with Kevin Gates, go a little bit more in depth in that, and a few more of the rap artists and all that, then let us know in the comments, and I will definitely put something together. Bronson and me both will put something together and get it out to you guys. But just so you know, we're barely scratching the surface on this. This could be an 8-hour, 10-hour, 2-day long video if we really went into it. But if you guys want to see that Kevin Gates video, put it in the comments, and we'll make that up. It'll be a shorter one, but we'll cover it as like a kind of like a side quest to this video.
That'd be fun, man. Yeah, I didn't know you had that in the pocket like that. You know, it's really sad to me, man, because, little backstory about Austin and myself. I mean, we've been doing this a little long enough now. We can drop some lore on you, right? Our father spent a long time of his life being a tour bus driver. And so I was raised, and I'm sure, Austin, you can say the same thing. I was raised with a lot of watch out for them rock and roll bands type of thing. You know what I'm saying? We heard a lot of weird stories that our dad experienced on the road with some names that you would all recognize if I were to say them. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted and enjoyed listening to rap and hip hop, was because it didn't seem to have all of this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to watch my language so YouTube doesn't kill us here, but all some of these darker type of agendas behind it. And then once I went through the study that we're going through tonight, many years ago, and I started figuring out some of these signs and symbols that you're going to be covering, I was so upset because some of my favorites from even the old school ones, man, Sugar Hill Gang and Tribe Called Quest, they're all doing the same.
Tribe Called Quest has some stuff behind it too. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. I was drawn to the darker side growing up. We're from the South, so if you're my age and you're from the South, you listen to 3 6 Mafia. I mean, that's just something you listen to. That's what you grew up around. That's what everybody that had a system in their car was playing. That's serious. Grew up listening to like Bone Thugs and 3 6 and all that type of stuff. And it's got a lot in there. I mean, it's called 3 6 Mafia.
Right. It's sad, man.
I will say this. I did see Project Pat, we're from Charlotte. He lived here for a while. I did see Project Pat had turned around, and he's basically being like doing outreach and has a ministry now and all that type of stuff. So that was good to see. Their daddy's a pastor and all that, so he's kind of coming back to it. So that shout out to Project Pat. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I like Project Pat, bro. That's what's up. I didn't know, and I also didn't know that he lived in Charlotte. That's what's up.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
Yeah, let's do one more, and then we're moving on to the spirit cooking lady herself, Marina Abramovich. So Yeah, let's go ahead and check this out.
Yeah, man. Let's get into one more about this lady real quick.
Rihanna is spotted here with Michelle Lamy, and just pay very close attention to how they treat this woman. Shortly after, this is her backstage of ASAP Rocky, and this woman has deep connections with every single celebrity. I mean, many pictures and videos of her and Usher, Kim Kardashian, Migos, Kanye West, ASAP Rocky, whatever, you name it, almost every single celebrity. But who is this woman? If you look her up, it says she's a fashion designer, filmmaker, producer, whatever. But she's also married to Rick Owens, and now we're getting warmer. If you know anything about Rick Owens, he's known as the Dark Lord of fashion. Now, if this woman is married to the Lord of Darkness when it comes to fashion, and she's a fashion designer, this is literally her wearing his head, you start wondering, what is she doing with all these artists? Surely it can't be all fashion, right? And then you see pictures of her with Marina Abramovich, which is outspoken for her art, but also her spirit cooking. All I'm saying is be aware of what's really going on and do your own research.
All right, so that was the one that kind of leads us into the next thing with Maria Broadus. Pause it there. I'll go back to him right there. Now, how many of you guys out there have seen the original Ghostbusters?
I have never actually seen that movie, bro.
Oh, okay. Well, you don't know what I'm talking about, but a lot of people in the audience will. You remember the guy that was in the painting that came to life? It looks just like this dude. Can we zoom in just a hair? Is there any way?
Yes.
Because that dude, he's just spitting the image.
Oh my gosh, bro.
All these clowns. Don't you want to be like these disgustingly ugly people doing all these foul things?
No,
Bro.
not even a little bit.
But somehow all these celebrities are around these old, crusty, witchy, gross looking people that look like they haven't bathed in 10 years. Isn't that who you want to be around? Not me.
Right.
I'm good. I'll
What
pass.
what an influencer. You know, we didn't even go down the fashion rabbit hole in this episode, man. But you can, goodness gracious. I mean, with Coco Chanel and her ties to the Nazi party.
Balenciaga.
Yeah, Balenciaga, big one there. Versace and the Medusa head. It's it's
Yeah.
it's it's something else there, man.
It's an industry of vanity.
Yeah. Well said. Well
Going
said.
back to the movie references, if you've seen Devil's Advocate, what does the devil say? Vanity, my favorite sin. Yeah. Well, you never see a fashion, you never see fashion and models and all this that has like a light, airy theme. It's always just like to make things, they take beautiful people and make them as ugly as possible with the ugliest clothes possible, designed by the ugliest people possible, and then just shovel that filth onto you. I've never been a
Right.
big fan of fashion or anything like that because it always felt dirty and weird. And
It is really
it's like they
strange.
try to be as weird as possible, as dirty as possible. It's just,
Right.
it's like Zoolander, the derelict line, just filth. They just want to look like complete filth. To me, it's always been gross and always had a weird vibe around it. And I never wanted anything to do with it or learn anything about it. And the more I'm glad to force fed information about it, the more I realize it's just it's exactly what I thought it was. It's trash.
Yeah, that's exactly what you think it is, man. You know, there's some old school brands out there that never went down this route. You can find some great American leather companies, some really good European leather companies, good linen, good silk out there from people who are not like this. This is something else. And
But when you get
if you
into the
do
high
ever,
fashion, it's always that way, bro.
oh,
Always.
every time, and it never fails. It is so sad because, and all it takes is just a little bit of Googling. I mean, tonight's not the night, but just a little bit of Googling, and you can see that a lot of them blew up in strange times, strange war times, and it's just, they just happened to be a humble family making saddles for a king. And it's like, well, how did you make that deal, bro? Like, it's really strange, bro. Really strange. But speaking of strange, speaking of disgusting, there's a lady on the screen right here that you just mentioned, and she is our next topic here. If you are just listening and not watching, she is currently holding what I can only describe as a severed goat horns, and she's a freak, man. She's a freak. Now she blew up back in, oh, dude,
Like 2015, 2016.
2015, yeah.
when a lot of this stuff was coming out, because it talked about, was it John Podesta
Yes.
in the WikiLeaks from Hillary Clinton that was so excited about doing spirit cooking with Marina Abramovich. She's connected deep to all over the place, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was all CIA.
Mm.
Because I mean, right now she is like the head of education in Ukraine. Like,
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, it's just weird stuff. And I will say, Kim Kardashian in my research keeps coming up.
Oh yeah.
She's got connections to Diddy, connections to Michelle Lamy, connections to Marina Abramovich. It seems to be no matter where you go, there's a connection with Kim Kardashian. So I feel like it's a big link there. There's a reason somebody as talentless as her is that wealthy.
Absolutely.
There's a reason, yeah, and there's also a reason why all the men that's around that family end up losing their minds or on drugs or, things
Worse.
happening to them, and then they're tied in directly with the guy that was Kanye's handler. God, what is his name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about too. He was he's like a fitness instructor, right?
Yeah, but he was in he's Mossad. He was in the basically the secret agencies for Canada and was the head of their pharmaceutical stuff. And he's the one that was giving Kanye all those shots and basically zombieing
That's
them
right.
out. I can't
That's
remember
right.
what his name is, but they're all connected, man. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're all connected to Epstein and the pedophilia rings and the blackmail rings, and all this stuff seems to be interconnected. I haven't found a smoking gun on it, but all the same people keep popping up.
Yes. Yes. Kanye is one of those, man. Like, I want to love this dude so bad, bro. Just college graduate, dropout, dark twisted fantasy. I mean, he made some songs when I was coming up, man. And he seems like one of those guys that has tried, and I could be very wrong on this. Drop a link, hit me with something, and prove me wrong. I've got no ties to the guy, but he seems like one of those guys who has tried so hard to break out of what would you call it, like the MK Ultra. It's like he's tried so hard to get away from this stuff, and anytime he does, something happens to him. They bring him back in, they send him away, and he goes missing for a few months. And
I'll tell you what, there's another one we could put in the comments if you want us to do a deep dive on Kanye, because I got a whole lot of clips on Kanye.
oh man,
If you missed the Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, Kanye episode, if you missed that, I wouldn't recommend it to kids. But if you want a good chuckle and also hear a little bit of truth, there's a lot of craziness, but that's a must watch. So I got a lot of stuff on Kanye too. So if you guys want to see a Kanye, if you guys want us to do an in-depth on rappers and what's going on with handlers, MK Ultra, all that type of stuff, we'll even cover some of the goofier things like the clone stuff, and it may not be that goofy.
right.
We can cover all that type of stuff. So if you want us to get real in-depth on that, we will. But let's keep it pushing now and cover
Let's
a
do it,
little
man.
bit more of this witchcraft within culture.
Piles of bones, snakes, blood splattered across walls. What you're looking at aren't scenes from a horror movie, but works from a so-called performance artist. An artist who also rubs shoulders with some of the most celebrated and influential figures in our society. Everyone from famous actors and musicians to DC power brokers and international financiers. Her name is Marina Abramovic, and her work has been featured everywhere from the Metropolitan Museum of Art to a Microsoft commercial. But who is she, and why does she possess such enigmatic appeal to the world's elite?
I am obsessed with this woman. She is so incredible.
It's time we investigate who really is Marina Abramovic. Marina Abramovic. They call her an artist, but what she does is shocking. Cutting herself, burning herself, and other such extreme and grotesque acts. Abramovic was born in the Serbian capital of Belgrade in 1946. Hers was a harsh childhood. Her mother, a Communist Party official and military veteran, was cold and oppressive.
I was so incredibly unhappy as a child. We never sit together as a family, we never talk together, we never had any kind of Christmas, New Year together. It was always very unpleasant and very tense situation. So there's something wrong with me. She was always thinking that I'm doing something wrong here, and she absolutely hated it. This total control of my mother, total obsessional discipline which I had opposed of me, I had to have my own space. I have to kind of let it free.
Abramovic began her artistic career in the 70s while living in Serbia. She gained fame in the art world by performing extreme acts of endurance and pain, billing it as performance art.
But you might say that pain is Marina Abramovic's medium, and her message, deal with it. Back in 1973, she rhythmically jabbed the spaces between her fingers, at times drawing blood.
She almost died in 1974 when she laid inside a burning star, losing consciousness due to smoke inhalation. In another famous performance, she stood motionless for 6 hours while attendees were encouraged to freely interact with her in any way they please, using a variety of 72 items provided.
I was standing there in the middle of the space with this table with objects. I put the objects on the table very carefully chosen because the objects was for pleasure and there was also the object for pain and objects that can bring you to death.
It was 6 hours of real horror, Abramovic recalled, saying, "They would cut my clothes. They will cut me with a knife close to my neck and drink my blood, and then put plaster over the wound." The act ultimately resulted in a guest placing a loaded gun to her head. Her performances take on a distinctly dark and often occult feel, frequently blurring the line between performance and ritual. In the 90s, Abramovic started doing a work she dubbed spirit cooking. Spirit cooking later evolved into a form of dinner party that Abramovic occasionally puts on for collectors, donors, and friends. In 2016, spirit cooking became known worldwide after WikiLeaks released emails showing John Podesta, then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, was invited to participate in this sick and bizarre event. The invitation was sent to John Podesta's brother, Tony, by the originator of spirit cooking, Marina Abramovic. The leaked email reads as follows: "I am so looking forward to the spirit cooking dinner at my place. Do you think you will be able to let me know if your brother is joining?" The act of spirit cooking, which Abramovic was so looking forward to, involves using pig's blood and sometimes consumption of bodily fluids as a way of connecting with the spiritual world, to cook up dark energies rather than food. It also at times involves other ritualized acts, such as cutting oneself. One spirit cooking recipe reads, "With a sharp knife, cut deeply into the middle finger of your left hand. Eat the pain." In this photo, Abramovic proudly displays the bandaged middle finger of her left hand. This YouTube video with over 2 million views shows Marina performing a version of spirit cooking at an art exhibit. She uses animal blood to write cryptic verses on the wall. In one grotesque scene, she pours a bucket of blood over an effigy of a child. She said she uses pig's blood because it is the closest to that of a human. Black magic groups including Santeria and Voodoo frequently use an effigy instead of the real thing in their workings. But in order to understand spirit cooking, we must take a look at Aleister Crowley and the religion of Thelema. Thelema is a pagan occult doctrine created by Satanist Aleister Crowley in 1904. In Thelema, the Eucharistic host is called a cake of light and is made from flour, bodily fluids, and sacred oils.
So fun and wholesome for the whole family. Let's mix up a bunch of blood and semen and all kinds of stuff, and let's do some kind of rituals with it. Now, there's a lot we can get into. We're talking about like it's about to get gross, guys. Just fair warning. Sorry for the ear aids that may ensue, but there's a lot of rituals that involve menstrual blood and the drinking of menstrual blood, and there's a ancient ritual that goes back a long, long ways that talks about the star fire, and you might see starfire referenced in certain things here and there. And like I said, cover your kids' ears. And what that is a ritual that involves the drinking of the menstrual blood of the most pure Nephilim queen within like the draconic bloodline. And if you're not familiar with that, we can cover it a little bit later. But I just want to let you know that there is all kinds of rituals with this blood, and we're going to be covering it a lot more in part 3. But there's a reason why all this is done. And you see, it goes back to Aleister Crowley with both Michelle Lammy and with Marina Abramovich here. And this is why in the first part we covered Crowley so heavily, is because he keeps coming up. He keeps being referenced. And you know, that first video they said, you know, we try and distance ourselves from Crowley and all this type of stuff. Well, no, you don't. Sorry, no, you don't. He's a pillar in this world, just like even a bigger pillar is Kabbalah. You know, because Crowley and all the people we had in the first episode all based their baseline was Kabbalah. That's what they took a lot of this out of. Yeah, I think you're on mute, Bronson.
I was just saying, yeah.
Oh, okay. I saw your mouth moving. I didn't want to cut you off. But yeah, so this Crowley keeps coming up, and it's just the sick stuff over and over and over again. And this is who the handlers are for your top stars that your kids are looking up to, and that's shown to you to supposedly be so beautiful on your TV, and that are selling you these fashion products, and makeup and things like that. Like personally, I wouldn't wear nothing from these people. You see what they do? Could you only imagine what they try and sneak into these products? What kind of curses they put on this stuff that you put onto your skin and the clothes that you wear and everything else? Like, you're wearing this, and imagine the symbols that they sneak onto your body, the sigils they put into the stitching, and all this type of stuff. Like, just there is no depth or depravity they won't do to bring garbage into your home.
Absolutely.
They will do it, from Disney movies to the music you hear, to putting curses on the albums back in the day. We could have covered that a little bit. We can only do so much. But there, you know, be very conscious of what's out there, guys. And think about, you know, the sources. There's always some wicked witch, evil spirit cooking demonic lady behind these pretty faces they show to you on the red carpet and sell their products through and everything else. And what it is working mass rituals, working mass, you know, pharmakia curses into your home through clothing and makeup and music and television and everything else. I mean, we just saw at the Paris Olympics what you know, what they wanted to put into your homes. And whether it's Dionysus or it's just some gay dude in blue paint gyrating naked on a table in front of children, either way, it's gross and demonic, and I don't know anything about it. Whether it's the Nephilim Dionysus or just some freak show, let's be honest. They want to put this in your homes. They want you to see it. They want to shove it in your children's faces. So just be mindful of what you buy, what you bring into your home, what you listen to. And this is speaking to myself too. I'm not standing up on a pedestal. I grew up listening to Tupac and 3 6 Mafia, so I was listening to doing curses while doing drive-bys. You know what I mean? So, like, there's, you know, I'm not up on a pedestal. I'm just being honest. That's really what's going on here. And you see all these people in fashion and music. So far, we haven't even got to everything else yet. But you see who's behind them and who their handlers are. It's these sick people that take their teachings back to Aleister Crowley and the Kabbalah and John Dee and Eliphas Levi and all these people that are in the deep end of the dark side. So, you know, just keep in mind when you're purchasing these products or anything like that, you're bringing this into your home and you're giving it the silent okay by doing so.
Oh yeah, and support it with that dollar bill, man, goes a long way. I'm glad you brought up makeup and skincare. I forgot to even mention that, as it's boy, I'll tell you what, you know, when my lady and I we switched course in our life about, I guess, 6 or 7 years ago, we went on this little journey together, and we've been doing it for a long time now, where we do things a little bit different in our home. We've talked about it before on this channel about how we celebrate Passover and the other biblical feasts, and we observe the dietary laws in this household. And we're really weird about who we give our money to. Target's a no-go, Starbucks is a no-go, et cetera, et cetera. And when we first got into this stuff, we were shocked to see what was in that makeup, man. I mean, you hear about people talking about the poke or the potion or the jab, whatever you want to call it, and that's one thing. But man, what these kids are putting into their skin and in their eyelids on a daily basis would just shock you if you took the time to look into it. So I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to do it.
Yeah, but not only that, but food also.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And not even on, if you're not even thinking about it on the spiritual level, I think with RFK and the Trump kind of team up, a lot of people that are more on the right side of politics are opening their eyes to what's in our food and what's in our water, and different chemicals that's put in the water, whether it's fluoride or whatever it may be, and things in your food with BPA's and plastics and atrazine. What we're seeing back here while I'm talking is in the background is Dom Lucre posted this. This was an event hosted by Marina Abramovich where she did some spirit cooking. It's called Devil's Heaven, and it's got all kinds of weirdness going on. And they did a spirit cooking event here that was very, very, very toned down. But this is just to show that this is their world. So let's go on to the next video, because this one is a very toned down video, but it's just to show how it's portrayed.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at some of the people next that are tied into Maria Abramovich. And right here, yeah, James Franco keeps coming up.
He sure does here, man. Now this guy is Home Alone. That's who this kid is, right? The Home Alone kid.
Yeah,
Yeah. Would you believe me if I told you I've never seen any of those movies?
that's crazy. I can't believe you
Yeah.
haven't seen the original Ghostbusters. That's insane.
No, man, I've never seen it. I know that I've seen bits and pieces, but in my childhood, I mix up Ghostbusters and Flubber.
I guess. Well, in Ghostbusters, they had a ghost that was a lot like Flubber. So
Is that true? Okay, yeah. I don't know why. Maybe one day I'll have to go watch it. I know the song, if that helps, and that's about it. And I've never seen Home Alone. But James Franco, there was some type of documentary for Leaving Neverland, and this kid from he's not a kid anymore, but the dude from Home Alone, is always telling James Franco that he's wrong for accusing Michael. But James Franco, he's had some strange roles, man, and willing to do some things on camera that is just a little bit on the strange side. Have you ever seen the movie At World's End, or The World's End, or whatever? It's got who's the guy from Eastbound?
If you're talking old movies, I'm your guy. If you're talking anything in the past 15 years, I have not been interested.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty weird, man. It's got that whole cast in there, the Jonah Hill and who's the guy from Eastbound and Down, James Franco.
Yeah, I like Danny McBride. He's from not too far from us. Actually, Eastbound and Down was set in Shelby, North Carolina.
Right.
Which makes a lot of sense. But which is an underrated show. It's a filthy show. You shouldn't watch it. But the time when I watched it, it was funny. It's a good comedy. But that whole crew, man. Who's the dude?
Talking about Seth Rogen.
Oh God, what a puke! I can't stand to even look at that dude's face. Yeah. But yeah, that whole crew is involved in a bunch of weird stuff, and there's a reason they're all famous.
Yeah. It's I don't know if I mentioned Jonah Hill or not, but they're all, they did that movie Sausage Party, which was just a strange movie. A lot of our brother,
I never watched it.
Our brother and sister walked out of the theater. I don't even think they made 10 minutes in. It's a strange one, man. If you've never watched it, I don't even recommend it, especially the final scene. It is just a weird movie. But that being said, with all the strange occultic things and just blasphemous things that they're willing to do on camera, and yet you see This lady here, I hate to keep referencing movies and Zoolander and stuff, but if you guys remember Katinka from Zoolander, I swear this is who this reminds me of. She's in the background of every picture. It's Katinka, it's J.C. Penney or whatever. But here she is here, and I'll come up and kind of give a little bit of context on what's going on here. But this post comes from Shadow of Ezra, and it says that Marina is being accused of performing a satanic ritual in front of 250,000 people in the United Kingdom on the pyramid stage. It was a 7-minute silence for peace, and she's wearing a dress that you can see right here that is obviously supposed to be, the peace symbol or whatever. I don't even know how you walk in that thing. It's weird. But here's a little video that's playing.
Up on stage looking like Satan's little pretzel.
Yeah. See, this is something that I also try to avoid taking part in. I know it might seem weird and maybe even unpatriotic, but when I hear a moment of silence for such and such, I try not to partake in that stuff. I'm not going to be disrespectful and start hooping and hollering and stuff, but
I'm not going to enter into an agreement with anybody that I don't know firsthand is a follower of the Most High. I'm not going to do it.
No.
She's been linked to other elitists, including Bill Gates, Big Shock, Jacob Rothschild, which we'll show in just a minute. It's a picture of him and her in front of the painting. Was it Lucifer?
Conquer or something like that.
Lucifer calling his hordes or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Jay-Z, this is not a big shocker at all. You don't even have to do much research into that. And we're actually not even
Lady
allowed
Gaga.
to say this name. We can't even say this.
The name that will not be cannot be said. Voldemort Zelensky.
We've been Voldemort. We've been told by YouTube, and it's not just us, it's everybody. We've been told by YouTube, you don't say that name, you're not even allowed to mention that country. And you will immediately be stricken down if you mention it. So
we're in America, man. I'm gonna say what I want to say. If they strip us down, then they'll just have to show who they are. We've already been killed in the algorithm and everything else for just simply reading the Bible. So I really don't care what they do to us at this point. What are you going to do? Make us get less views? Come on, bro. We don't care.
Right.
Yeah, but they do really. To any content creators out there, they can all attest to this. There's a big warning label when you reach the monetized level that you will not be allowed to talk about Ukraine or anything else like that or in a disparaging way. It's like, dude, I'm an American. I'm going to say exactly what I want to say whenever I want to say it to whoever I want to say it to. Like,
it's the message is it's for good or for bad, exploitation, whatever. It's like reading a contract. It's so crazy.
Yeah. You will not disparage Ukraine. Well, I'm sorry, dude. I don't care anything about Ukraine. I don't at all. Has nothing to do with me. I hope everybody over there lives and has a great life and finds Christ. But other than that, it doesn't have anything to do with me. All it is a money laundering, a country for money laundering for the CIA to perform black projects and have laboratories and do testing away from government oversight here stateside. That's all that is. It's just a vassal state for the United States and has been since the fall of the Soviet Union. So I really don't care about your sob stories and all this other type of stuff. Sorry, man. It's a CIA vassal state.
It's there's some real crazy stuff going on there, like what you're talking about with the CIA and everything. Yeah. Here you go. So maybe there's a reason why YouTube and everybody else wants you to kind of stay away from this stuff.
I'll read it. Zelensky just recruited satanic witch and baby eater Marina Abramovich to serve as ambassador to Ukraine to help rebuild schools.
There you go. Now, what has she got to do with schools and children? I saw her pouring pig blood on an effigy of a child not too long ago. It's what do you got to do with rebuilding schools? I just don't understand that. We talked about her being involved with old Billy, and she did. She had a commercial with him, or not with him, but for his company, Microsoft, and it got 24,000 dislikes. Hey, you remember when YouTube used to have a dislike button, bro? Those were the days. You could actually
see it with certain. You can still see it with certain like plugins or whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah. She had a whole like commercial, like a long commercial too. It's like 4 or 5 minutes long with their I don't know if it's the Oculus that's Microsoft or whatever their 3D thing is, to where she, and built this whole thing around her. Can I ask you something, Bronson? What has she produced?
I couldn't
What
tell
has
you,
she
dude.
done that's contributed to society? Why is Microsoft building 4 and 5 minute commercials and building whole programs for their VR headsets around this lady?
I've got no idea. I mean,
Gotta ask yourself, why?
yeah,
Why is Kim Kardashian worth $1 billion? What has she given to the world? What has
nothing.
she produced? Like, why do they have so much money? Why are they constantly being shown?
Right.
I gotta ask the question about just me personally about Snoop Dogg. Why is he, out of all the people that have been around, why is he the one that's in everything? He's on The Voice
Everything.
now. He's
I
doing
know.
commercials for T-Mobile. He's doing commercials with Martha Stewart. He's doing, like, why? He has to be
Right.
tied into something like this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What was he? He was charged with murder and got out of prison like in a day or 2 days or something like that. It was 24 hours he was out. And I mean, what is oh Lord, is it sorry guys, this is the name of an album before I say these words, but I'm pretty sure on Doggy Style he had a song on there where he's kind of going back and forth with Satan, kind of like a Damien
It
sort of.
wasn't on Doggy Style. It was after that. It was on it's called Murder is the Case That They Gave Me.
Murder is the case. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, there's some strange stuff going on over there, man. Real strange stuff. It's so strange. And here
Here's the
she
picture I was talking
is.
about.
Yeah,
Satan summoning his legions, not his horde, his legions, with Jacob Rothschild in front of this picture. It's like they're being summoned by Satan himself.
right. Don't those just look like some healthy, happy people that you want ruling your world and building your schools and being the leader of art and culture? It's I understand that when it comes to history, one of the first things that you study in a culture is their art, because it is an expression of current events, current mindset, emotions, and feelings at the time. I'm well aware of that. I understand that, and I even appreciate and respect that. But this lady is not a representation of us, man. She's not a representation of what I would even call the
She's a
majority.
perfect representation of the powers that be, though.
There it is.
And that's and that's who pushes this stuff, even throughout time.
Yeah. Yep. It's crazy.
At least Jacob Rothschild's dead now, praise God. All right, let's move on.
So we've got one more clip coming up to lead us into our next segment of this video, and this is where it gets kind of fun to me. The other stuff is disgusting, it's gross, I hate it. I wish I didn't even have to know about it, but you got to know about it because it's the world we live in. And that was just, honestly, all we did was just turn the doorknob on that rabbit hole. That gets deep, and next week when we do our part 3 in this, it's going to get gross and ugly.
Yeah, no, we could cover musical artists and actors and actresses, tied to different witches and covens and different belief systems and the mystical cabal. We could do that for days, man. But let's just keep it pushing, and we'll cover some. We're just kind of covering the surface level just to show, hey, even just on the surface, you can see all this here within music, art, cinema, theater, architecture, politics. It's in everything. So we're going to do a brief overview of all these things and just kind of give an all-encompassing thing of how infiltrated each of these arts have been.
Yeah, and this is where, to me personally, this is where it gets fun. I've always enjoyed conspiracy theories my entire life. I've always thought they were fun and interesting, and to me, this is where it gets like it scratches that itch for me. And I'll just let you guys kind of experience it for yourself. But I find this very interesting.
If you like this clip, go check out our Ether in the Old World video, because we cover a lot of stuff that's on the same kind of level.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
That was aligned with like Nazism, the Rockefellers, of changing our standard music from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. What the theory is that 440 hertz, it's not a frequency that it's tuned to bring clarity or healing. It does the opposite of stress, anxiety, anger.
The frequency that it moves in is not aligned with natural frequencies.
Yeah.
So it exists in dissonance with what we would naturally perceive as soothing or calming or normal.
So kind of like how everything works together. 432 hertz is that golden ratio of hertz. But this globalist, elitist, whatever you want to call them, wanted to change it to 440 to basically control the masses. So you'd be more susceptible to going to war, adapting ideologies,
Inciting chaos.
And let me tell you, man, and we've become very open on this channel. You guys know a lot about us. Back in my day, when we were talking about on the last episode, when I was kind of hanging around some of these people, man, I was taking psychedelics on the regular all the time. And I was one of those guys that I know lots of people say, oh man, when you do this, you should listen to this song or listen to this band or play this music. I was a no music tripper, man. No music for me. Even if it was my most favorite of favorite songs, it was always this overwhelming sensation of dread, like as if my whole body just felt like it was falling out of the core. It was just horrible. And I really do think that some of it has to do with these frequencies here, man. It's not a good thing, bro. It's just not. And to think that they went this far to even change some of the hertz to where this is a subliminal thing. It's not something that you would recognize on a surface level. And on the surface level of this album cover, I didn't even know this existed until just today. Austin told me about this. And I liked the Beatles. When I was in high school, I used to listen to them rather often, but I'd never seen this album cover here to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And awesome, man. You want to talk a little bit about this? Because this blew my mind.
I won't get into it too deep. Like I said, we're going to keep it surface level, but if you'll take your cursor up to that top left corner, once again, there he is, Mr. Crowley. And if you guys are a little bit older than me and you're fans of Ozzy or anything, you know the song, Mr. Crowley.
Yeah.
Got a song about him right here on the front of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club album. And you got several other people on here, but let me put this theory out there. And I haven't, I'm not a major Beatles fan, never have been. I know that they were, very influential for their time, and they were progressive and did things, did a lot of new things. So I get all of that, but just the music itself, not a big fan. Much prefer listening to the Rolling Stones or, Cream or, the Yardbirds or whatever from that era. I much prefer that to the Beatles personally. But my theory about this album cover is I think that all this, it's called the Lonely Hearts Club. I think that this was a big club of people that were all initiated into some kind of society together.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable.
Had the same type of viewpoints together. I could be wrong on that, but you see a lot of people that were into a lot of weird things. You have a lot of Eastern mysticism in this. Whether there was a bunch of people like gurus and all that stuff in there. And this is the time they were experimenting with psychedelics and just, pointing out that Crowley's there again. He keeps popping up, and you can go through and you can find on Wikipedia where you go through this photo and it tells you who each one of these people are and some of the people they removed and some of the people they wanted to put on here but didn't put on here. And you can go through and look at all that for yourself. But I did want to point out, look, there's Crowley again, popping right up in culture.
Yeah, boy, for someone that they really don't like, and he was just kind of a kook and doesn't represent their beliefs, I swear they shout him out a whole lot.
So if you look here at the top right corner, so right there at the very top right, there's Bob Dylan. Now, this is a famous interview. If you've not seen it, prepare for your mind to be blown. So let's go ahead and go to this interview of Mr. Bob Dylan talking about how he got where he was at. Let's start at the beginning. I might do a terrible impression, so forgive me.
Oh, man.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, long time ago, and I'm holding up my hand.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in the world we can't see.
You ever look at music that you've written and look back at it and say, whoa, that surprised me?
I used to. I don't do that anymore. I don't know how I got to write those songs.
What do you mean you don't know how?
Well, those early songs were like almost magically written. Darkness at the break of noon, shadows even the silver spoon, a handmade blade, a child's balloon.
Eclipses both the sun and moon. To understand, you knew too soon. There's no sense in trying.
This Dylan classic, It's All Right, Ma, was written in 1964.
Mouthpiece, the hollow horn, plays wasted words, proves to warn that he not busy being born, is busy dying.
Well, try to sit down and write something like that. There's a magic to that, and it's not Siegfried and Roy kind of magic. You know, it's a different kind of a penetrating magic. And I did it. I did it at one time.
You don't think you can do it today?
Mm-hmm.
Does that disappoint you?
Well, you can't do something forever, and I did it once, and I can do other things now, but I can't do that.
What a strange confession, you know? Just a weird thing to say. The chief of this world and the chief of the world to come, and he sounds miserable, bro. You know,
They all do it. They all do at the end.
Yeah.
Just
Why in the
living
world?
up my part of the bargain, you know.
Yeah. It's all over the place, man. This guy here is United Kingdom rapper. I guess he's a rapper. I don't know who this dude is. The UK style rap is taken over. I like their flow. I like the way it sounds. The lingo.
I gotta be
I
honest,
love.
I despise it. The accent,
Really?
I cannot stand it. Sorry, I know we got some people in the UK, and I like you guys, but the rap, it ain't it, man. I just can't take it, bro. The beats are good. What's his name? Ghosty does the beats. I like the beats. Sound cool and everything else, but I don't want to hear, Charles III bust a rhyme, okay? You can just go ahead and keep that over there across the pond, mate.
And with that, here's this gentleman.
About all my spiritualism and manifesting and things like that. That all comes from her, and she practices witchcraft, not in a way that they're going to clip this and try to say that my mum's doing juju or anything like that, but like stones and things like that.
Which
and,
actually a lot of people do nowadays, manifesting in the crystals and all that.
Exactly, crystals and things like that. So the way I always say, like, nothing's ever really hit me too tough because I know that everything, the reason why I'm here is because I've manifested it and I'm meant to be here and it feels natural. She's the same. So it's nice to have a member of my family that's been around me that also believed so well to the point where she's not that phased either. Obviously, I've got about all my spiritualism and manifesting and things like that. That all comes from her, and she.
Yeah, stuff gets passed down, man. It's strange how that I mean, it's not really strange at all, to be honest with you. I mean, you monkey see, monkey do. You do what your parents do, and it starts somewhere.
It's a bloodline thing too. You have these familiar spirits that are around bloodlines that's passed down and passed down and passed down.
Right.
And we could talk about certain things like that, star families and bloodlines and all that type of stuff. We can go deep on it, but
Do you want to play like the first 5 seconds just to hear what this girl says in the song?
Yeah, we can play it real quick.
As what she says is very common lingo in today's music.
I'm Satan's disciple, Isaiah 14:14, that's proof.
So you don't like that accent, huh?
No, I could.
Oh, sorry.
I could leave that every time. I could leave it every time. I don't want to hear it.
But she calls herself Satan's disciple in that song, and it's really, honestly, it's all over the place these days, man. It's if you listen to any kind of this new music and kind of the modern day sound, you hear it all the time. It's just I don't even want to tell you who the song comes from, but my allegiance with the dark side may be coming soon, that the blood of my mother's womb may be blessed for many moons. And that's a very, very famous rapper. Very,
Yeah.
very famous. And
No, it's all over it, man. And a lot of people within the black community in America get caught up in the witchcraft and stuff like that because they're told that, oh, these mean old Christians, took you over here and forced Christianity on you. But it's a complete lack of understanding of history. Christianity was in Africa long before it was ever in Europe, and definitely long before it was ever over here.
Yeah.
And they end up in this, weird hoodoo, voodoo, like stuff to where they're making bargains with entities and with elements and all this type of stuff, when honestly the Father has always loved them from the beginning. You don't
Right.
have to go far to see that at all
Right.
within scriptures and within knowing history and the spread of Christianity and everything else. It was to deliver you from this kind of crap you're seeing on the TV right here, this blood rituals and these sex rituals and voodoo practices and hoodoo and Santeria and all this type of stuff. Like that wasn't what we were made for, man. No matter what race you're from. So don't get
Right.
caught up in that type of stuff. And I got friends that are in it that reject supposed white Jesus and want to return to the roots of what they believed in. But this ain't it. We were all created in the image of God, regardless of who you are, and you don't have to have these practices to get in touch with who you are.
Right.
It'd be like me thinking that I need to decapitate someone and drink out of their skull or whatever because I'm from Viking background. Well, no, I was delivered from those evil practices. Just
Right.
like you and your ancestors have the ability to be delivered from those practices, those pagan practices that no matter what race or religion or ethnic background or nationality you come from, there's deliverance and freedom from those practices. Because believe me, all of us can trace our lines back to some kind of paganism.
Oh yeah.
That was what ruled the world for millennia.
Absolutely. And the thing that gets me is that, in the beginning, just like most things with Satan, he wants you to eat the fruit and tells you this crazy lie, and you too shall be as gods and stuff. But like how you said with Bob Dylan, you see the rest of them. After a while, you begin to realize, like, wait a second, this is a trap. This isn't a good thing, and most of them are not happy. I mean, in their youth, when they're MK Ultra'd and they're more or less brainwashed and handled by their handlers, you can see it's almost like they're enthusiastic about it and they want it to happen and they're pushing this agenda and everything. But
it's something new and mysterious.
Yeah, but as they get older, when time goes on, it becomes something where you realize, wait a second, I can't stop. And if I do stop, bad things happen to me and it happens to my family and I can't get out of this. And you are trapped, and it becomes a horrible thing. Whereas with Christ, it's freedom. You got freedom with Christ.
You're a prisoner. You're a prisoner.
Absolutely.
When you tie yourself to the dark kingdom, you're a prisoner.
Yes. And what we're scrolling through right here
will drag you down to the grave.
Absolutely, it sure will, man. And it takes a toll on your life. I told that story on the last series that we did about that gentleman that I know of that we don't know where he's at, if he's alive or whatever, Hey, look at that guy.
Hey, there it is.
I know that
Christian
guy.
Mario Kart.
But what we're scrolling through here is just actually a very, very nicely done article here where they're bringing together many sources of lyrics and songs and musicians and bands and just kind of pointing out some of the connections between it all, because there's many branches to the tree, but it all goes back to one root, one trunk, whether it's hoodoo or voodoo or whatever, it's all the same thing. I'll highlight
Lana
this
Del
section
Rey
here.
tweeted a series of cryptic dates. After some research, her dedicated followers determined it was a part of a hex against Donald Trump.
Yep. Yep. And it's all over the place. I mean, we're really kind of just sort of skimming through all this. It is a lot of reading and everything, but you can see it everywhere, man. I mean, whether it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds or whatever you want it to be, it's Hotel California. It's all over the place, and I hate to just fly by this stuff the way that we are, because like Austin said earlier, we really could spend.
I mean, if you want to get into like the rock stuff or the classic rock stuff or the stuff like Carlos Santana and some of the things the Beatles were involved in. Jimmy Page, we covered a little bit last week. I mean, we could go into a lot of it. I mean, up until, metal stuff and different bands that are clearly in league with Satan. And that was a reference to a song. So if you, any old metalheads, that's a nod to you. But yeah, so there's a lot we could get into. Some of it I feel like is well known, some of it's not, but we wouldn't be able to cover an all encompassing episode. So use the comment section. You guys are interested and want us to do deep dives on certain bands or metal bands, rock bands, rappers, whatever you want us to do, let us know in the comments. Like I said, we could have made these episodes like 2 days long worth, but we're trying to just skim. So let's go ahead and go on to the next thing. I'm tired of looking at this dude's face. Getting into the sports now. So if you guys haven't seen this about Giselle, Tom Brady, and all this type of stuff, we've got a couple clips here for you. So check this out, guys.
Any superstitions going into the game? Any special thing you carried into the game on Sunday that you had tucked away somewhere?
I did. I always, I've learned a lot from my wife over the years. She's so about the power of intention, and believing things that are really going to happen. And she always makes a little altar for me at the game because she just wills it so much. And so she put together a little altar for me that I could bring with pictures of my kids. And I have these little special stones and healing stones and protection stones. And she has me wear a necklace and take these drops she makes. And I say all these mantras. And I stopped questioning her a long time ago. I did. I just shut up and listened. And at first I was like, this is kind of crazy. And then about 4 years ago, we were playing the Seahawks, and she said, you better listen to me. This is your year, but this is all the things you're going to have to do to win. And I did all those things, and by God, it worked. It was pretty good. And then in 2015, it was about early January, and she said, you know how much I love you? And I said, yeah. And she said, I just want to let you know this is not going to be your year. Oh. And of course we lost. I said, what does 16 look like? And she said, 16 is going to be your year. So it was early January this year, and I said, babe, asking, do we have a chance? And she said, yeah, but you're going to have to do a lot of work, and you're really going to have to listen to me. So, man, I listened to her. And right after the game, she said, see, I did a lot of work. You do your work, I do mine. She said, you're lucky you married a witch. I'm just a good witch.
Isn't it funny? It's just, she makes me a little altar and the crowd responds with, oh, and it's all this laughter and stuff. But man,
it's a complete defilement. All of society is defiled and is, oh, isn't that so cute? She made you a little satanic altar. Here, take these drops I made you. What the hell is the drops made of? Excuse my language, but what is it made of, Tom?
Right.
What are the drops? What are the drops? Is it children's blood? Tell us, Tom. Nobody stops. Is like, hold on, man. No one's like, hold on. What?
Right.
What is she making? What drops are you taking? What exactly are these mantras you're doing? And what are you doing around this altar? Nobody stops and asks, what's going on, bro? What's in the drops, Tommy? Nobody stops and does that. Everybody is just so, oh, isn't it such a cute love story? The football player and the crazy witch. Oh,
right.
It's just complete wickedness is taking over all of society. And you just listen to how they react to it. It's just sickening, man.
Right.
We got a few more clips on Tommy. Let's go ahead and do it again. Yeah.
Sure.
22 seasons, 22 passes into the Kabbalah tree of life. There's the Kabbalah again, guys. 22 major arcana tarot cards, married to a witch. That's right, folks. Tom Brady's entire career has been an occult mass ritual.
There you go.
So you look into that if you want. I don't want to get too far into the Kabbalah stuff and all that. It'll be shoved in your face promptly, believe me. How many times have you heard about chakras and everything else? That's all built off of the Kabbalah.
Yes. That's the root source of it all.
So Tom Brady has confirmed that his ex-wife Giselle has practiced witchcraft to help him win games. He goes into detail and says she made an altar for him before every game. He would say these mantras, he would say these chants, and they will will him his way to the victory.
Even in your football with your number one football quarterback and football star of all time, right here, witchcraft.
Yep. And it's interesting. It's not quite there, but you can say it's close enough. I'm gonna go ahead and double down. I'm gonna call that Baphomet hand symbolism there. It's close enough. It's,
And she comes out, like we talked about before, she comes out of the world of high fashion.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, she's, if I'm not mistaken, the highest paid model of all time. She was like the face of Victoria's Secret my entire like teenage years and all that. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that something? Wow.
All right, let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, so we're still in the world of sports here, and this is titled Switzerland Paid Witches to Curse Serbian Players. But they have 2 Albanian witches and the rest are African. Each witch is paid $10 million. This is how the Serbian regime affiliated TV is selling Serbia's World Cup loss to its public. Now, the video is not in English, but you know, what's $10 million to a couple of witches, right? When you were the World Cup or whatever, you're probably making way more than 10 mil. And so any advantage you can get, I suppose. This
seems to be very prevalent in soccer. Let's see, what does it say up at the top?
This is Adam Rippon saying, I can't explain witchcraft in response to this question about how he's such a good skater and has honestly and truly made me a sports fan. Now, this one is one that you brought to my attention. These guys are UFC fighters, and this is I'm gonna butcher this name. Israel Adesanya he's super corny, and he heard that Alex Pereira uses black magic and couldn't help but to follow his daddy's footsteps. And this is just kind of a stare down or whatever. But
he's saying something right here. If you play that video,
yeah,
he's saying something right here, like trying to do some kind of a curse. But if I remember, I believe Israel Adesanya is a professed Christian, but you got to always watch out for the supposed professed Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
You know, the world of combat has always been full of it, man. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. So this is goodness gracious. Yuri Prochaska remains adamant that Alex Pereira is using magic, but says it doesn't matter.
He's trying to play something. I saw him in his eyes. What he's doing, some technique. Doesn't matter. I'm pure. I don't care. I just want to show the pure performance. Who's the best?
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know who won or lost that fight, but it seems like he's pretty spooked. Yeah, he looks spooked, man.
Bit of a question heading into UFC 303. Do the commission test for witchcraft and sorcery?
I don't know. I love that though. So when Yuri found out about the fight, apparently he goes into a shed for 3 days. No water, no food, no nothing, and prays or meditates, whatever he does. So apparently his coach went and banged on the door and told him that this fight was available, and he said something to the effect of, if this is what the universe wants, you know. So he is that dude. So he sees him doing this Charmin stuff and whatever, or Sharma, or I don't know what the fuck it is, but he's like, yeah, no, he's using, this is unfair, he's using witchcraft or whatever, black magic, and it is just another reason that this fight is so awesome.
That's such a weird attitude to have, bro. I mean,
isn't it so awesome they're using witchcraft?
Yeah, man. Now we're not just fighting with our hands. Now we've got magic powers involved. It's just like, man, to me, it's just so corny, bro. But headliner Alex Pereira responds to Jiri Prochaska's claim that he uses spiritual forces to win fights. If he did not found his, or he does not believe, it is not my fault.
Earlier today, Yuri was in here and he said that he believes you use shamans, magic, and spiritual help to compete in the octagon, and he would like to challenge you in this fight that you don't do that and you just perform physically.
Encontrou, né, o espírito dele, eu não tenho culpa.
Well, everybody have their own spirits. We're not only made of flesh and bone. I found mine. If he did not found his, or if he does not believe, it's not my fault.
And he ended up winning that fight, bro. So I mean, it's the world of combat has always been full of this stuff, right? You know, there's always been shamans, there's always been rituals before large battles and war. It's always been a
Yeah.
thing. I don't know, maybe in the last 200 years or so, maybe it's sort of gone by the wayside. I couldn't tell you.
Well,
But if you
maybe
look,
at the ground level, some. But I mean, you always hear the saying, "There's no atheist in a foxhole."
right,
You know what I mean? And so, I mean, but the upper class, the rulers of this world in the physical realm, are tied into the spiritual.
absolutely.
I mean, what do you think that all these useless wars and everything keeps going on for, and this meat grinder of a worldwide war machine keeps going on for? It's feeding these entities.
Yeah.
And it's spiritual at the highest level. It definitely is, even to this day.
Yeah, yeah. You had mentioned something at some point in time about I believe it was a Nordic group or something, where the berserkers.
The
And
berserkers, yeah.
yeah, and that type of stuff goes on. I mean, it always has been a thing. You see it in, you know, African tribes and Nordic tribes,
Yeah,
or
that's actually, from what I understand, and I've looked a little deeper on that Alex Pereira, what he's doing. That's very similar to the berserker ritual. It's not the same, but it's got the same type of spirit to it as the berserker rituals. And like I keep saying, if you want to see more about these berserker rituals or anything like that, we might put something in the third episode to show it. But if you're interested in a real in-depth thing, let us know in the comments. We'll cover it.
for sure. Until then, we'll move on to our next little segment here. And now we're going to get into a little bit of the world of the politics. And we saw that Lana Del Rey was trying to cast spells, hexes on Mr. Trump himself. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more of that going on in politics than anywhere else in the world, to be honest with you. But this is a clip from Fox News with Mr. Jesse Waters, and he's speaking about the famous Jeffrey.
Pedophile Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. So why do we still know nothing about him? Well, we're finding out tonight some answers. The Wall Street Journal just got its hands on Jeffrey Epstein's private calendar, and it was a lot more suspicious than Brett Kavanaugh's. Epstein was meeting with the kind of people you'd think would steer clear of a convicted pedophile. Jeffrey Epstein was meeting with one of Barack Obama's top lawyers, Catherine Rumler. She met with Epstein dozens of times. Epstein even tried to set up Obama's lawyer to work for Bill Gates. How is Jeffrey Epstein a fixer between Obama's lawyer and Bill Gates? Epstein was also meeting with Joe Biden's CIA director. He wasn't CIA director at the time. He was Barack Obama's Deputy Secretary of State. William Burns was working for John Kerry at the State Department and meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, a known pedophile. And then Burns becomes CIA director. Today's director of the CIA went to Epstein's Manhattan townhouse where Epstein had sex with underage girls and, you know, where he filmed other men having sex with underage girls. And William Burns went there and was then promoted to the director of the CIA. Now, I wonder if the future CIA director saw the portrait of Bill Clinton in a blue dress hanging in Epstein's parlor room. A few years later, Epstein was arrested and then hung himself in a jail cell while security cameras just happened to not be working and the replacement guards just happened to fall asleep. And 2 years later, Biden just happens to pick William Burns to run the CIA. So what are we supposed to think? It's never been more clear. Epstein was an intelligence asset. Not only was he working for the CIA, Israeli intelligence, maybe even Russia intelligence. So was the American government allowing an asset to traffic and molest teenage girls all over the world for intelligence? Were we allowing Epstein to commit crimes against children for blackmail material? Well, we asked the CIA director, William Burns, why were you meeting with a convicted pedophile at his disgusting townhouse? And the CIA director said this: the director did not know anything about him, other than that he was introduced as an expert in the financial services sector and offered general advice on transition to the private sector. They had no relationship. So Obama's State Department official couldn't have asked anybody else in the entire country for help with a job in finance? He could have called any CEO, any hedge fund manager, any banking director. But he meets with Jeffrey Epstein, a guy that doesn't even really have a real business, a guy that doesn't even have a website, a guy that, as far as we know, only had one client, the CEO of Victoria's Secret. Huh. That doesn't add up, Bernsey. And this explains the sweetheart deal back in 2006. This explains the prison cell cover-up. And this explains why all the Epstein tapes went missing. Everything Epstein recorded, everything, missing. Every property he owned. But when he died, the Fed seized all the tapes, and the only person who's ever been arrested since then was the Madam Maxwell.
Jeffrey Epstein found me almost immediately. He knew exactly where I was, the location. And I knew then that I was being filmed. I was being watched 24/7. There were cameras all over the island.
So the CIA has all the sex tapes, and they've been blackmailing like crazy. This is the blackmail jackpot. Hours of video starring the world's most important people in Epstein Island, in the Manhattan townhouse, and the Palm Beach estate, and the New Mexico ranch. Bill Clinton was good pals with Jeffrey. Flew on the Lolita Express 26 times, went to his private island. So when someone does something that doesn't make any sense, maybe it's because they don't want to be doing what they're doing. Maybe it's because someone's telling them what to do and threatening to release the tapes if they don't.
I know that doesn't really fall in line with the witchcraft stuff, but it does show the connection between Bill Gates, who is connected to Marina Abramovich, and you saw what they did with Microsoft. We didn't show the full thing, but it's a 4 to 5 minute commercial, and they built a whole program, based on what she wanted to do for their VR headset. And then you have him here connected to Epstein, and Gates has been connected to Epstein left and right, and you can find those connections. But it just goes to show, and you see the CIA connections, and he mentioned some of the Mossad connections. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was a asset from the Mossad and British intelligence. It's all one big club, and we're not in it, guys.
Right.
One
Absolutely
big club.
right.
It's all tied in together, and it all involves witchcraft and this pedophilia and these rituals they do with children that we'll be covering a lot of it more in this next episode. It's all one big web of debauchery and sinfulness, and
Yes.
It's all connected.
It sure is, man. If you are asking the question of I don't see how it is connecting, it most certainly is, man. It's just on the surface we always think of big hat, lumpy nose, and a cauldron in the dead of night. But when you get down into all this Kabbalistic stuff that Austin's going to be breaking down like
when
crazy.
you dive down to the bottom, it's big nose and small hat. All right, let's the wizards are, the Kabbalah wizards are out there, and all of your witchcraft and a lot of this sick stuff is all based in that.
We talked a little bit about politics, but this kind of gets into some of the signs and symbolism as well as architecture. Austin is big on architecture, and we've actually got some pictures and videos that he took to his own trip to the DC area. So we're going to go through a couple of these pictures, and then we're going to actually have Austin be able to tell you from firsthand experience the things that he saw while he was there.
So what is it, and where does it lead? First, the Masonic compass. This points to the White House. The White House is the base point on the pentagram. But that's not all. The White House also sits at the base of another key Masonic symbol, the unfinished pyramid. The unfinished pyramid is the symbol depicted on the dollar bill, with the so-called all-seeing eye at the top. Back in DC, remarkably, the street outline does something similar. Travel directly north from the White House, up the pyramid, to the center of the all-seeing eye, and there can be found a building. It is indeed a temple in the form of an unfinished pyramid. This is the temple of the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree Freemasonry. So what is it, and where does it lead?
So it's even in the road systems, man. It's all over the place. I've often wondered for many, many years. It was a long time ago where I started to learn about some of, this particular road systems and whatnot. And I often wondered just what does it look like when God looks down on earth and sees all of these roads that have been paved? You know what I'm saying? What is the grandiose picture that could perhaps have been etched onto the surface of God's fine creation we call earth? And I often wonder, you know what I'm saying? It's vandalism of his own creation. There I understand we talked about in other episodes how asphalt was being produced out of
the Dead Sea.
What was it? The Dead Sea. Thank you, the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to sit here and say that paved roads are a mark of the devil. Don't get me twisted here. But
I want you to think about something. Are you familiar with Peru?
I mean, I know that it exists, and I know what Peru is, but I know there's some pyramids there.
Lines?
The what?
The Nazca lines.
I don't think I am familiar with that. No.
It's all kinds of symbols like a thunderbird and all kinds of different things that are carved into the ground, and you can't tell what you're standing next to. The only way you can tell is if you're way above it.
Oh, you know what? I have seen that. Yeah, I have seen.
And you wonder if it's some kind of message to the heavens, whether they're sending a message to the entities in the second heaven or to God himself or whatever it is. But I mean, these big layouts that you see here in Washington, D.C. and other parts of the world, you wonder if it's some sort of sigil magic or symbolism, almost like a land right here to the entities in the second heaven. You know what I mean? That type of thing. You wonder, who are these sigils for? Like, what is this exactly for? Why did they go through all this meticulous layout of this city to put this symbolism and point to these certain locations? What is the reason for this?
Right.
It's there. It's definitely there.
A lot of work and a lot of effort goes into that, and you'd have to, you often think about, and the time of Noah where it talks about how the whole earth had been defiled, and this seems like part of it. Just I can't call it anything else other than the vandalism of God's creation. You know what I mean? It has no business being here. It has no business being carved into, paved into, or whatever. It's really, really sad. When it comes to that unfinished pyramid, I wonder just how much of that is tied into Babylon or the Tower of Babel. Just very something I never quite really thought about.
We could go into the pyramid and the 13 steps of the pyramid and ancient Egypt, and we can do all that. That's going to be another super deep dive, though. So let's just keep it surface level for right now. And once again, if you guys want to see like deep dive into the pyramids, what's on the money and all that type of stuff, we could really get into that. And look at all the different people that have written about it and said things about it, about the Great Seal of America. Why is there a little owl hiding on the dollar bill? Well, all kinds of stuff that we can get into. There's writings from Manly Hall on that. There's all kinds of theories on that and explanations about that. So if you want to see a deep dive, mention it in the comments.
Yeah, man.
Over the city, looking down on Washington, D.C., you'll see there are two main boulevards culminating in a pyramid. And just at the very top of the pyramid is a street cutting it off. And then within the triangle at the top, where the eye on the dollar bill is the Capitol. And the Capitol building sits there. It's a pyramid. Then it has the Cleopatra's Needle, which is a Washington monument. And the river, the long riverway, the long waterway is called the River Styx, which is where Pharaoh went into heaven on the River Styx. It is all laid out in Masonic symbolism. And the five-pointed star, which is a pentagram, has always been used satanic worship. And if you take the arms off of a pentagram, you have a pentagon. And the United States Pentagon is sitting exactly due north, aiming due north at the North Star Thuban, which is drawing power, according to the ancient Egyptians, for the god of war.
When I first learned about this right here, I was probably 15, something like that.
Right.
And it was just, that stuff was so fringe at the time. Even back then, if you said like, "Hey man, I think there's something to this alien stuff," boy, you were just cuckoo for cocoa nuts, but or cocoa puffs. But this here says, so I haven't been to DC in years, but this is on the outside of the Department of the Treasury building, a pentagram, and I feel sick to my stomach. And there's also the head of a goat above one of the windows, which I believe is satanic as well. Now, what's that doing there? I couldn't tell you, man. Now, some of your witch friends and everything will your friends, but yeah, they'll correct you on some of this terminology here, and they will tell you that it is a pentagon, and there's a difference between your pentagon and your pentagram and all that stuff. But really, all you really need to know
It's
is
left path, right path, dualism.
Yeah.
It's all leads you to the gates of hell. Sorry, it's all witchcraft. That's what it is.
sure
It
is.
all comes from the depths of hell, and I want nothing to do with it. I don't want it on my treasury building. I don't want that giant statue of Lucifer in the harbor there in New York. They call the Statue of Liberty they have on top of a star for it. You can keep all that stuff. I would love to see that stuff crumble and fall. And I know there's probably a lot of patriots watching like, what are you talking about? What do you think that statue is? I mean,
Right.
it's an idol.
Yeah, it's a violation of the second commandment, and it's nothing
Right.
less.
It is.
Yes.
It's paganism. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the Most High God, and it shouldn't be there.
It's horrifying, bro, because it's
Yeah.
We'll look at one more clip and just a couple of pictures, and as we talk about the pictures, I'd like to ask you a question, and
Sure.
you can take as long as you'd like to answer, because I think it's a very important question.
This is actually my personal video that I took. This is at the Lincoln Memorial.
Those pillars look huge.
They are huge. Over here, I get a close-up on the Emancipation Proclamation, which is carved in the walls. But, yeah, I'll let it run through a little bit. But, yeah, I just get a close-up on that so I could go back and read it later. This is taken years before I ever thought we'd be doing a YouTube channel. So this is for my personal, to go back and read and look through it and scour through it. So if you guys think that I'm, being, not being truthful about being into architecture and what's carved in these places and all this type of stuff, you can see here that I'm clearly interested in what's going on.
What year was this?
It's post-COVID.
Okay.
This is 2 years ago, I believe.
Okay.
So if we could get out of here and go to some of the images I've sent you, well, let's talk about what it is a little bit. Let's zoom in there to above. So you have the idol here of Abraham Lincoln, and I don't care what you tell me, that's an idol. It's a graven image, and it shouldn't be in a supposed Christian nation. I don't care how good of a dude he was. All right, let's zoom in there on those words real close so everybody can see this. If you're confused about what this is, in this temple, it is a temple. What are temples used for? For worship. So you have an idol sitting inside of this temple that's stylized after the Greeks, supposedly the Greeks, and the temples they would make for their pantheistic gods, which are fallen angels and demigods, Nephilim. That's what these temples were made for. And here in the United States, a supposed Christian country, we have this pentagram and we have this temple. This witchcraft and this paganism just infiltrates everything. And they pass it off to you as, oh, this is your history. This is a good thing. Well, you know what? My ancestors also murdered a lot of people. It doesn't mean it's a good thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They raped and pillaged their way all across Europe. Doesn't mean it was a good thing. Doesn't mean it was a holy thing.
Yeah, he's a pretty unique individual himself. Just his height is one thing in particular, and then the writings that he has about certain giants that seem to have been alive and present in his day and age.
Well, it was in an ancient time. He wrote about it being something that was in the past, but their bones were being found in the mounds that were all across America. And if it sounds like we're talking far-fetched to you, it's in his writings about Niagara Falls. It's in the very last part of it. You can find it. It's readily available on YouTube, internet. It's in the last section of that writing. If you listen to the video, I think it's like 1:41 long. Worth a listen, but he talks about it candidly as if everybody knows that the giants' bones, the race of giants and their bones could be found in the mounds Now, let's go back to that video. All right, right there. Watch again.
And it has the Cleopatra's Needle, which is a Washington monument, and the long riverway, the long waterway is called the River Styx, which is where Pharaoh went into heaven on the River Styx. It is.
All right, right there is what I was just showing pictures of. There's the Lincoln Memorial. All right, let's go back to the photos. There you go. There's your waterway. There's your needle. There's your Capitol, and then behind it is the Lincoln Memorial.
Wow.
But this right here is paganism and witchcraft right here in your architecture in Washington, D.C., the capital of this country.
Yeah.
Now, Bronson, what does D.C. stand for?
District of Columbia.
Who's Columbia?
Oh, I would assume it's Christopher Columbus.
No. That would be Columbus. This is Columbia.
Perhaps it's Lady Liberty. Is maybe she's Columbia.
That's the same person, but what is it?
I'm just pulling at straws here. I'm gonna assume some type of Rephaim god.
Let's pull it up.
Okay. Lady Columbia, Miss Columbia, female national personification, seated on an alligator with a cornucopia. A severed head was a further attribute. Cannibalism appeared in the background. Oh my goodness. Could this be the whore riding the dragon? Wow, she's all over the place.
Basically, she ties into like Diana. She was the goddess of war and agriculture. It's a pagan goddess worship.
Sounds about right to me. I mean, she seems to have been changed the way you see many gods and deities doing. I mean, this picture up here of her almost being like a spirit floating through the air is interesting because it's supposed to be synonymous with telegraph lines.
They can try and make it whatever they want to make it. What it is they're worshiping like a Diana goddess.
Oh yeah, no, without a shadow of a doubt, that's what's going on here. But being this carrier of messages, perhaps she was the goddess of the land before we even got here in the first place. I mean, this here is most obviously a Native American representation of the lady. It even says here in the article they wanted to change her appearance. You know what I mean? Very, very interesting. Seeing her on the dollar bills, all sorts of stuff. I never really quite realized just how much she plays in the history of this country. Just rolling through here and looking. Here she is on the dollar bill back in the day. And you can call that personification of America if you want to. I've got nothing to do with her. I don't know what she has to do with
I don't
us.
have anything to do with her either.
Yeah, to me, it's just more goddess worship. It's very clear.
Yeah, because the thing is, this country, a lot of people try to say it was based on Christianity, but the people at the top are not. They were deists. They were polytheists. Just to show to you that no, they were not Christians. This place was built to hold the mystery religions and to be a harbor for Masons, basically. Freemasonry. It's free because it's free and accepted here. They were kicked out of everywhere else. Yeah, with Caduceus there, yeah.
Oh, look at what she's riding on. Look at that horse mixed with like a mermaid.
Yeah, a beast.
Yeah, this whore riding on a beast. Very interesting.
Where's that at?
This here, right here?
Call to arms, right. This is the god of war, call to arms.
Yeah, this is in Troy, New York. Wow. Check this out. I've never seen this or heard of this before. This is obviously
it's the District of Columbia. That's who that district's dedicated to.
Yeah, no, this is the goddess of America. And just seeing that picture of her, knowing that she was already a part of this land and nation, sitting upon that alligator is just.
Well, think about when we were talking about the old world stuff with the ether in the old world. We were showing pictures of Chicago. Think about that golden statue that was there.
Right, you're very right. Wow.
This is the apotheosis of Washington. Let's read a little bit about this here at the bottom. It's a fresco painted by Greek Italian artist Cristiano Bernardi in 1865, visible through the oculus of the dome in the rotunda of the United States Capitol. The fresco is suspended 180 feet above the rotunda floor and covers an area of 4,664 feet. All right, so let's zoom in on that, on these images. This is the apotheosis of George Washington. Now, apotheosis means to become a god, to ascend to godhood. So let's take a look at this. Up
Got
here,
a lot of imagery going on here.
right? You have George Washington.
Who is this?
back.
Poseidon?
You have Poseidon. You have all these pagan gods from these, supposedly, Christian founders. They have all these pagan gods. They were deists. They were polytheists. They believed in the pantheon gods. So if you look up here, you see all these pantheonic gods. You see Thor. You don't see Jesus Christ. You don't see like saints or anything else like that. But you have George Washington up here ascending to godhood, being surrounded by 72 pentagrams. You see the pentagrams right here on the side?
How much of this is related to astrology? As I'm seeing this guy here, he's obviously spinning some type of wheel, and
all of witchcraft is getting in touch with entities, either that are roaming this realm or in the second heaven and trying to draw them down. There's even rituals we'll cover next week where it talks about calling from the four winds. Now, what do we know by reading from Enoch and other sources? That there's angels at the 4 points holding the winds back, and I believe that's how spirits get across. Now we're going to cover some rituals to where what they're doing, and most people that practitioners of witchcraft don't even realize what they're doing. What they're doing is they're doing these rituals to bind. You know how Jesus talks about what you bind in heaven will be bound on earth?
Right.
What they're doing is they're working for the other side of the coin, and most of them don't even realize what they're doing. What they're trying to do is bind those angels to allow these fallen entities to be able to traverse from the second heaven to the first heaven. So what they're doing is they're binding these angels through these rituals to be able to allow these forces into our reality.
Right.
And they don't realize that that's what they're doing. And I can show this I'm debating whether or not to show this. What they do have is a layout of what this place actually is. And they have different sigils, and they do these workings and call from the four winds and stuff, these beings. And so, yeah, it all has to do with astrology and the connection between the first, second, and third heaven.
Right. This here is very, very, very peculiar, and it seems incredibly out of place in God's country. You know what I mean?
All of this seems out of place. Why is there a district to a pagan goddess?
Right.
Why is there an idol of a pagan goddess in New York? Why all these obelisks?
Right.
Why are all these pentagrams everywhere?
It doesn't make sense.
Why is our Department of Defense operate out of the Pentagon?
Yeah, it's
why is NASA part of Department of Defense?
Right. It's so strange to me, man, because the thing is like you said, we're brought up to believe.
Before we go too far, I just want to make this point because I will forget. I'm not trying to cut you off, brother.
No, you're fine.
All right. So, are you familiar with the raising of Osiris ritual?
Yeah.
Okay, well, think about that. That's basically what they've made George Washington out to be, is Osiris. And they took him from being a man to godhood. That's what apotheosis means.
Right.
We have that raising of Osiris. It's like they've tried to make George Washington the new Osiris. And this Columbia goddess is most likely really supposed to represent Isis. So we just got to wonder who in this mythology is the Set and the Horus.
Right. And you see next to George Washington there's a lady to his right, and I would call her Columbus. I wouldn't have called her that 20 minutes ago, but that's what I'm going to call her now. And there's a dude to his left. It raises just so many flags and so many questions, and I don't want to spoil too much for our third episode here, but just with what we've done tonight, we've looked at music, we've looked at politics, we looked at art, we've looked at architecture, fashion, yes, and we've all lived. Most of us that are watching this channel were alive 4 or 5 years ago. We know what goes on in the world of science as well, right? we were all there. You lived it, you saw it, you breathed it. Pun. But it's all around us. It's all around us. It surrounds us everywhere. It's this inescapable club, like you keep calling it. It's this club, and we're just not in it, to quote George Carlin.
I don't want to be in it, man.
No.
I don't want to be in it at all. But it is one big club, and they operate within each other. They each all have handlers, almost like a buddy system to keep them all in line.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a tangled web of wickedness, man. And this is what we're fighting against in the physical realm. We fight against spiritual, powers and principalities. That's what we're really fighting against. But these are just the manifestations in the physical realm.
We find ourselves right in the middle of it. And my question I was going to ask you, that I kind of teased a few minutes ago before we saw your pictures. I'm so glad you're able to bring those in, man. It's so nice to see something that's personal. It's not just a Google image or whatever. So I think we've presented a case. I think you've done a very, very good job in presenting the case. Now, one thing that the enemy does so well is they will present the problem that might not even be a real problem just so they can present you the cure, right?
Yeah,
now,
Hegelian dialectic, yeah.
Exactly. So here we are as Christians in the midst of this web, as you called it. What do we do? I have an idea on what we could do, and I'd be happy to tell it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts and your answer to this. What are we supposed to do in this world as Christians? What do we do now? Do we just sit here and wait?
Well, you have to go to the scriptures, number one. The biggest thing you can do, in my opinion, is to not be a coward, to always speak your mind, but you have to come out and be separate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the scripture calls us to do from the Babylonian system, is to come out and be separate, so you're not partakers of her plagues.
Right.
And go and read. I invite everybody, and we won't go through it now. And believe me, guys, I know there's like, man, you guys are jumping around, but we're just trying to cover baseline stuff because we're already 2 hours in. And we really got down and dirty into it and really covered each person that'd be here all day.
Right.
Like I said at the beginning, we're just kind of skimming over some things just to show all the different things that it's witchcraft and sorcery and paganism is involved in. Now I invite you all to go in Revelation and read about what happens when Mystery Babylon falls.
Mm.
And see what the merchants of the world are mourning. And it talks about the ports with all the ships and how, they spread, basically they were the consumer nation. They were the consumer Mystery Babylon. They consumed everything and they spread their wickedness all over the world. Said it made the kings of the world drink of the
wine of fornication.
Yeah, wine of the fornication. Yeah. So, and what is the Bible? What is fornication in the Bible? And prostitution? It's worshiping other gods and other religions and this false religion and combining the holy with the defiled, with the profane.
Mm-hmm.
So, I invite you to go and read that, because living in America, that's most likely us. Okay, and what happens?
Probably.
I mean, there's really two candidates, and it seems like America lines up better than any of them, unless there's some future place coming that I don't see yet. And just in my reality and looking at it, who's the consumer nation? It's us. Who would the merchants of the world be crying over because they can't sell their products anymore? What nation could be taken out and that would happen? Just us. I mean, who else is the consumer nations? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of them, but not on the level of us.
No.
Who spread wickedness and debauchery all around the world through our cinema and through our arts and through our music? Us.
Yes. Yes.
Who spread this all over, with fashion and all this? Who's running these, worldwide pedophile schemes? Us in the West. And the intelligence agencies in the Western countries, the Five Eyes. With Epstein, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's who we know about.
Right.
Think that's the only island?
No.
Come on, man. He was sloppy. And that's why they murdered him. If he was solid and they thought he could be, trusted to keep it solid, they would have just freed him later.
Mm-hmm.
He was sloppy. That's the only reason we know about him. So they whacked him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled him out of that jail cell and did him dirty somewhere else.
Maxwell, that was the handler, okay? She allowed him to get sloppy. That's why she's sitting in prison.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how these people work. He was sloppy. That's why we know about him. And that's why he's dead now. Okay. So it's a worldwide thing, man. So the thing is go read your Bible and Revelation about Mystery Babylon. It's caused us to come out of my people to not partake of her plagues. So really what we should be talking about is this really Mystery Babylon here? And if so, where do we go?
Where do you go?
Where do we go to not be protectors of the Babylonian system and its plagues? So really what we're called to do is to come out of the Babylonian system and separate ourselves. Separate ourselves and be a peculiar people unto the Most High, unto the rest of the world for the Most High. Be different. That's what peculiar means. Different.
Yes. Yes.
Be different from the system.
Right.
Be different. Be different from the Marina Abramoviches. Be different from the Tom Brady's. Be different from these other people that partake in this and just see nothing wrong with it. And they laugh and awe and coo about witchcraft.
Right.
About dealing with demons. It also says that Mystery Babylon would be will traffic in the souls of men.
Yes.
So, do men traffic in souls? You would have to be trafficking in souls through witchcraft, right? And sorcery.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's how you're trafficking souls, right?
That's the only way I know to do it. I mean, obviously you have the
Heard Bob Dylan. He signed trafficking his own soul.
Exactly.
But there's some way that you can traffic in other people's souls.
Right.
Now we also hear in the Bible where it talks about catching souls with their pillows.
Yes.
Okay?
I was just about to say that. Yes.
Now, just throwing this out here. I don't know this for sure, but I've been thinking about this for many years now.
Okay, here we go.
What about this abortion industry that now the election going on? It seems to be such a big deal for so many people. Like it's the #1 issue to kill babies. Why is that such a big issue? Now I understand when people talk about incest and rape and that type of thing, but you know that accounts for less than 1% of abortions, right? So why is this such like almost a religious fervor for this? You got to wonder if somehow they're trapping these souls of these babies that they're murdering and they're trafficking them to the spiritual realm. And, that makes me think, like, maybe that's what the Bible's talking about is trafficking in the souls of men. Maybe they're using some kind of, I don't know, ritual to entrap these souls and feed it to the dark kingdom. That's just the feeling that I've had for so long. And then you take, what it says about Mystery Babylon and the verses about trapping the souls of the pillows and all that type of stuff. And you think about just this religious fervor for abortion and it makes you wonder.
That's a horrifying thought. That's very,
it
very,
is
very,
horrifying,
very scary.
dude. I can't escape that feeling. And it feels like that's the reality of it to me. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's not that, maybe it's something else, but just putting those together, that's what it feels like to me.
I'll take it.
Going on.
I'll put my own little twist on that. I know this is going to get kind of like a long video.
This is conjecture.
Yeah,
guys,
but this is fun. Yeah, this is good.
I don't have a smoking gun for this, but it's just what I feel in my spirit is right. Let me hear yours. So I'm curious.
Yeah. So there is a section in Ecclesiastes that I've always interpreted. There is no words there that could really say whatever, but I've always interpreted that talks about going to this darkness, and it almost seems like it's talking about a stillbirth or what have you, right? So souls all belong to God. Yes or no?
Souls are mine, saith the Lord. Yeah.
Yes. So when we talk about trafficking the souls, although I like your idea, I like what you're presenting to the table, I'm going to just kind of put my own twist on it and say that what if it might not be, for lack of a better term, the metaphysical soul, right? The little ghostly ball we think of when we think of soul. What if perhaps it's the blood, right? Because the life is in the blood. And we know what they do with the blood, with baby blood, fetal blood, and we know they do all that stuff. Is there a chance that there's something? What do you think about that?
In which aspect? That the soul is in the blood?
Well, just that the life is there, and so if there are trafficking souls,
let me do this way. Then we'll talk. This is going back to an old video we did, one of the first ones, the Genesis commentary. Life is in the blood. Adam and Eve were created. It talked about them being flesh and bone, but doesn't mention the blood.
Right. Yeah.
And then it talks about blood later on.
Abel.
Yeah, and the life is in the blood. It's almost like the way I put it before was that blood is almost like the ethereal liquid that binds us to this physical realm.
Yes.
So, and that was just me, going off then at that point too. It makes you wonder. It's one of the mysteries that, what is
it's
this?
one of the three witnesses.
Blood. As the blood resonates, right? Innocent blood of Abel cried out from the ground.
Right. Right. And I believe it's one of the three witnesses as well that we have on earth: the water, the blood, and the spirit.
Right.
So there's something going on there with that blood. And when we talk about the trafficking of the souls of men, I don't know how you can, other than like what you said, which I like the idea. Not that I like it, but horrible concept.
It's a far out theory that does have a little bit of biblical precedence to it.
Right, but if it's not some type of spell or incantation,
think about the Moloch worship in the Old Testament, and passing the children through the fire.
Right.
What possible purpose would it have other than to be able to trap that soul in some sort of ritual manner for some sort of use or like a currency in the dark realm?
Oh, dude, that's such a horrifying thought.
Right. Yeah, but think about it. Why is there so much religious fervor for these abortions? Why has there been this child sacrifice and these blood rituals that go back to prehistory? Why is this? It's not because it doesn't work.
It brings a whole new light to the term "set the captive free."
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
That's a horrifying thought, man. I mean, I would love to
look
believe.
at these people. They're horrifying people. And even what they
Yeah.
do in public is horrifying and disgusting. Imagine what they do behind closed doors.
The things that they put these people through, and I know we're going to talk about it a lot next week, is horrible enough. To think that you can't even escape it through the means of death is just. I've never wanted you to be more wrong in my life.
I want to be wrong too, man. But I'm
I
trying
know
to think,
you do.
how would you traffic in souls of men?
Right.
I mean, is that just flowery language for they kill people? I don't know. It just seems that you could say something so much different, like they were murderous and violent and stuff like that. But that's not what it says. It says they traffic in the souls of men.
Yes. Yeah.
And it does, it says, capturing the souls of the pillow. So it's a possibility. That's something that they were doing. It's in the Bible that says that they were doing this.
Yeah, to make souls fly. Where is that at? Jeremiah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what I mean? There's something there. Has to do with blood and the hurting of innocence.
Wow. Maybe somebody in the comments has got an idea and can add to some of this conversation.
Yeah, we're going off on it here.
Oh, but this is
some of the stuff we're going to be talking about in the next episode. But I just wanted to show that look, this is not a Christian nation. This wasn't, the founders weren't these. Some of them were, but not all of them. And you see this architecture, and they were all Masons and involved, like Ben Franklin in the Hellfire Club, and a lot of these different strange things that you see coming out of France and stuff at the time, and out of Bohemia, because 1776 was not just the Declaration of Independence; it was also the founding of the Bavarian Illuminati by Adam Weishaupt. Right there in 1776, you have a lot of this stuff going on.
Yes,
and the Rothschilds were involved in that as well. The Rothschilds are over here. It's a lot to it, man. We're going to get into a little bit more of the ritual stuff coming into this episode 3. And by the way, guys, I'm really glad to be back. And I know we've kind of been rambling here, but me and Bronson haven't had a whole lot of time together to kind of bump this stuff off of each other. So we're kind of doing it here. You guys can see this is how we end up coming up with these episodes. We end up having these conversations like this.
Right.
But
And it's so much fun, man. And we encourage you guys to be involved in it. This is why in the last episode that we did on the Genesis commentary, I know it wasn't a whole lot of views, and that's fine, but we really went and had a conversation saying, when it comes to these type of topics, especially because this is very much off the cuff, it's a lot of conjecture. We're not really citing our material, but we know the verses that the others are talking about. We enjoy these type of conversations, and two brains is good, but I can't imagine what it'd be like if we had many people here having this conversation. And so we talked a little bit about getting maybe some type of group, a memberships program where we can do members only videos and have chat rooms where it's just us, you know what I'm saying, Christians talking. You don't have to worry about the trolls or the people coming in here being, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, and we can kind of just keep it amongst ourselves and bounce ideas we've been having off of each other without it being like, oh, this is definitely it. Because honestly, man, there's not a whole lot of people that know all of this stuff and know it for sure. It's mostly conjecture and ideas from people and little bitty glimpses that you get from people that are sloppy, like Jeffrey Epstein, and people that are, a little more flamboyant, like Michelle Lemmy and Marina Abramovich. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just what you see.
Yes.
The real power and the real people that are super intelligent and very maniacal, you never see them.
Oh, no.
You never hear about them.
Oh.
You never hear about their families. You never hear about any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and end it here, man. Like I said, we just covered the surface level. We had a little bit of a conversation, getting to some deeper stuff here at the end, which is cool. I love doing this type of stuff. But we covered just some baseline stuff just to show examples in different avenues of culture, just how prevalent it is, even amongst your top people. Greatest quarterback of all time. Talking about his wife is a witch and has altars that have him taking drops. Is that adrenochrome, Tommy? What is that? What are these drops you're taking? Is it fairy dust? Are you going to Never Never Land? What are you doing? What's in the drops, Tom? So everybody out there, go spam Tom Brady. Ask him what's in the drops.
What's in the drops, Tom? Hashtag what's in the drops. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. It's been a fantastic episode. I really enjoy this type of stuff, man. I know it gets dark and scary and crazy out there. I always try to end these type of darker topics with the verse that just changes my feelings on it all. Is that just remember, in this world you will have tribulation. It's promised to us. And in some cases, that's kind of a blessing, man. If you don't get the tribulation, if I didn't have tribulation in my life, I'd be rather concerned about myself, because it is a promise.
Better be,
yeah, man.
Being a follower of Christ here in these last days, and I believe we're getting close. And everybody's always thought that, but I mean, it's so in your face, man. It's not for the weak-hearted. It's not for the cowards. You know what I mean?
No, it's certainly not. But take great cheer and great confidence in knowing that God has overcome the world, and we've got an excellent thing waiting for us in the end. And all this fun conversation, speculation that we get to have now, it gives me a lot of joy and peace. It allows me to escape some of the disgusting things that kind of plague your brain and your heart when you do these types of studies. And in the end of it all, man, we'll get all the answers we're looking for. We'll know all the secrets, and in a place with no more pain and no more tears. And I'm sure we will be able to see a lot of you guys there at the end of it all, and I look forward to it. In the meantime, we will be working on our next Genesis commentary, so be on the lookout for that. Austin has asked you guys many times in this video to hit us up in the comments and let us know if you'd like to see anything else, some deeper dives on this. We really can go deep. It's been a decade or so more of just hardcore.
We didn't really even touch on it too deep. We just showed a little bit of an example from each one. And like I said, I know it jumped around some, but that's kind of what it was supposed to do, just to show in all different facets, whether it's in the architecture, the founding of this country, the politicians, the music, the art, the fashion, the sports. It's everywhere. It's dug its claws in deep, and we got to separate from it, guys. We got to separate from it and keep Christ in our life, and keep our faith, and guard our children from it. And that's all for me for tonight. Tune in for our Genesis commentary on chapter 16 coming up, and be looking for part 3 in this. And that one's going to be a long one, because there's a lot of stuff to cover. And if you guys got any ideas you want us to talk about, we're going to be talking about some rituals and diving a little bit deeper. So if you guys have any suggestions, put it in the comments. We want to hear from you guys. This is going to be a whole community thing here. We listen to you guys, and if you guys request stuff in the comments, we we do write it down. We have a couple requests that we're going to do coming up. Sodom and Gomorrah was one of them that we're going to catch in our Genesis commentary. We haven't forgot about you. Before we get out here, shout out to matter of fact, I won't do the name. Shout out to the person that hit us up on X, wondering where we were. We appreciate that.
That meant a lot. Yeah, that meant a lot.
Yeah, we've just been busy with family stuff, but we definitely are back on it, and we'll be getting these videos out to you soon. So much love to you, and God bless you guys. And that's all from me for tonight, man.
Well, that's it, man. We appreciate you guys. We're really enjoying building this community together, and it's just going to do nothing but grow, man. And with that being said, we will see you all next time on Ancient Echoes. Have a fantastic evening.